Chapter 2. The Pit. Vuren did not smell like a world. It smelled like a wound. Hot iron, scorched stone, and sweat poured from the Undercity's depths like steam from a dying vent. The fighting pits were carved beneath the planetary surface, etched into rock that bled heat and echoed with the screams of centuries. Every corridor dripped with condensation, every grate coated in old blood. Kyel stood at the entrance of the slave barracks, just 9 years old, shivering despite the heat. Around him were other children, some younger, many older, all broken in different ways. Some stared at the floor, others whispered to themselves. One wept softly, a sound ignored by the guards and quickly stifled by a kick. No one spoke to Kyel. They didn't need to. In places like this, silence was currency, and he was already rich. The first day wasn't training. It was breaking. The guards led them into a chamber of heat and light. Stone pillars surrounded a sand-covered pit, scorched from years of combat. Dozens of children lined the walls as a woman entered, tall, muscular, with dark red armor and a neural prod slung across her back. She was called Vexa. They called her the Pit Mother. She did not speak at first. She just walked, pausing in front of each child, reading them like open books. When she came to Kyel, she stopped. "You'll last," she said, "or you'll make someone else strong." Then she turned to address the group. "There are no names here, only echoes and ash. You are what you survive. You will be trained, you will be broken, and you will fight until your bones remember how to win. There is no escape. There is no rescue. If the Jedi cared, you would not be here." She raised the product. A spark cracked from its end. "Now, form a line, one by one." The days blurred after that. Training was not instruction. It was pain dressed as purpose. The children were thrown into hand-to-hand brawls with no guidance, no rules but one: stand at the end. Meals were earned through obedience. Sleep was a reward, not a right. Anyone who disobeyed was taken to the deep cells, where the screams returned days later, slower and changed. Weapons were introduced with ceremony. Each child was given a rusted blade or blunted pole and told to defend it. If it was taken, they went hungry. They were forced to watch executions, sometimes of pit losers, sometimes of each other. They were made to cheer or be beaten for silence. It wasn't just about teaching combat, it was about erasing hesitation. But Kyel didn't break. He watched. He observed. When one boy twitched before throwing a punch, Kyel noticed. When a girl always hesitated after fainting, Kyel saw. He studied the rhythm of footwork, the shift of shoulders, the dart of eyes before a kick. He began to move just before the strike came. Step away, counter, disarm. And more than that, he felt what the others felt. Terror, anger, despair. He didn't just see fear. He felt it, radiating from the others like steam from a cracked stone. It was force empathy, though he didn't know the word. He only knew it kept him alive. The Pit Mother took notice. After his 4th straight win, she brought him to a private cell, a place quieter, colder, lit by a single glow stick and adorned with etchings on the walls. Training scars shaped like constellations. "You don't fight like the others," she said. Kyel didn't respond. "You're not stronger, not faster, but you see things." Still, he said nothing. She knelt beside him. "I've known Jedi. You feel like one of them, but darker." That was the first time Kyel spoke in days. "I don't want to be a Jedi." "Why not?" "They're late." She stared at him for a long moment, then smiled, sharp and mirthless. "Then learn, little ghost. Learn fast. Learn well." She tossed him a real blade, well-balanced, clean, sharp. "You'll be fighting older boys next." Kyel caught the weapon without flinching. "I won't be fighting boys," he said. "No, I'll be fighting what they become if they win." By the end of his second month, no one challenged him without fear. Not because Kyel hurt them more, but because he didn't flinch when they cried, because his blade never shook, because he never looked angry, only certain. By the time Kyel turned 10, the guards had stopped betting against him. He'd won 7 matches in a row. None of them were pretty, none of them theatrical. His victories came fast, efficient, and brutal. One strike, one shift, one step ahead. He never showboated, never taunted. When others roared, he stayed silent. When they screamed, he watched them fall. The crowd had a name for him now. Ashblade. It wasn't official, but it stuck. Whispered between guards, muttered by bookkeepers, etched into data pads that tracked odds and death tolls. He was always the smaller fighter, always the quiet one. But he never lost. He felt nothing when he fought. That's what scared them the most. The other pit children cried, or raged, or begged when they were dragged into the arena. Kyel simply walked. And when it was over, he returned to his cell, cleaned his blade, and sat cross-legged with his eyes shut, as if trying to forget where he was, or to remember something else. The force still whispered to him. Not words, just pulses, like ripples under glass. Echoes of choices before they were made. He began to hear them more clearly, but with each match, the silence inside him grew louder. Then came Tarsa. She was 8, small for her age, with 2 bright eyes and a nervous smile. She was new, one of the latest shipments, trembling from dehydration and fresh bruises. The guards mocked her, called her a runt, laughed when she flinched. Kyel watched her for a day. On the second night, she crept into the corner of his cell block, dragging a piece of stale bread behind her like a treasure. She didn't speak at first, just sat there, her back to the wall, stealing glances at him like a mouse watching a sleeping Nexu. "I saw you fight," she whispered eventually. Kyel said nothing. "You don't look like you want to win." "I don't." "Then why do you?" He opened one eye. "To survive." She nodded, as if that made sense. "My brother said I'd get out. He said the Jedi would come." Kyel looked away. "They won't. They might. They didn't come for you before. They won't come now." Silence stretched between them. But Tarsa came back the next night. And the next. Eventually, Kyel allowed her to stay. She talked too much, laughed too loudly. She always seemed to be chasing warmth that didn't exist in the pit. But she was smart, observant. And when she asked questions, she listened to the answers. Kyel found himself speaking more than he had in weeks. Tarsa reminded him of Alira, not in the way she looked, but in her fire. A soft fire, like candlelight. Hopeful. Foolish. It scared him. But he didn't stop her from coming. The match was unannounced, no warning, no preparation. Kyel was eating when the guards entered. One pointed to him, one pointed to Tarsa. Training match. Upper. Now. Kyel rose without protest. Tarsa hesitated. I haven't. Move! The guard barked. They were dragged through the corridor and into the secondary pit, smaller and less maintained. The walls here were closer, the floor slick with old blood. No crowd, just the pit mother and 2 guards watching from above. Weapons were tossed at their feet. A dull blade, a stun baton. Kyle's stomach twisted. "She's not trained," he said. "Neither were you when you started," Vexa replied coldly. Tarsa looked at him, eyes wide. We don't have to fight, said one of the guards. No, Kyel said. She doesn't. Fight or die, Vexa snapped. Both of you. Tarsa's hand trembled over the blade. Kyel could see it, her fear, her refusal, the ripples of emotion so sharp they stung. He stepped forward. I'll fight. Vexa raised a hand. You move before I say so again. She dies first. Kyel froze. A silence fell over the pit. Then the horn blared. Tarsa picked up the blade. Her hands shook. She didn't lunge. She didn't strike. She ran, not toward Kyel, away. She sprinted for the gate. The guards laughed. One raised a blaster. Kyel moved. Too slow. The shot rang out. Tarsa's body hit the dirt, tumbling like a rag doll, limbs splayed. The blade clattered beside her. Kyel dropped to his knees beside her before the second horn sounded. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just closed her eyes with shaking fingers, then rose. He turned to Vexa, his voice colder than stone. She was 8. She was weak, Vexa said. And weakness is what kills people like you. That night, Kyel didn't sleep. The candles in his mind extinguished one by one. And in their place, only the sound of footsteps in sand. Steady, measured, getting louder. Sleep came in fragments, restless pieces of dreams folded between bruised muscles and the echo of screams from the night before. Kyel, now 10, no longer dreamed of family or of home. The soft visions of Alira laughing under Lord's twin moons had faded like dust in a breeze. Now there were whispers. They came at the edges of sleep, in that space between breath and oblivion. No faces, no words at first, just pressure, like something vast watching from behind the veil of night. Listening, judging, and then, slowly it began to speak. Not in language, but in understanding, an overwhelming command, unshaped but absolute. Endure. Break them before they break you. You are not here to win. You are here to become. The dreams twisted. He saw himself moving like a shadow, striking without sound, walking among corpses with eyes that did not blink. He saw Jedi screaming as lights faded, temples burning, a blade in his hand, humming not with fire, but with judgment. Each morning he awoke drenched in sweat, not in fear, in clarity. The guards noticed the change. Kyel no longer flinched. He no longer reacted to pain the way others did. He stopped responding to taunts. When forced to fight, he moved like water, absorbing, flowing, crushing. He didn't hesitate. He didn't roar. He ended things. The pit mother watched him now from behind reinforced glass, her usual amusement replaced by something more calculating. He didn't speak during training. He didn't ask questions. He no longer acknowledged the others. He had become exactly what they wanted. And yet somehow, something more. They gave him a real opponent next. Not another scared child or a half-trained slave. Not a test, a showcase. The arena was packed, hundreds of spectators, off-worlders, pit lords, spice barons. Drums beat from above. Floodlights bathed the pit floor in pale gold. It was a ceremony, an entertainment ritual soaked in blood. Kyel stood at the center, cloakless, unarmed, facing the far gate. The announcer's voice echoed through the chamber. Tonight, the Ashblade faces Rook Voln, the Butcher of Sector 7. The crowd roared. The gates groaned. Out stepped a mountain of muscle and rage. Rook was a favorite, a former soldier turned gladiator, adorned with tribal scars and wielding a vibro axe as long as Kyel was tall. He wore a beast skull over his shoulder and howled as he entered, lifting the weapon to the adoring crowd. Kyel didn't move. He didn't blink. He was not angry. He was ready. The bell rang. Rook charged with terrifying speed for a man his size. His footsteps shook the sand. He brought the axe down in a wide arc that would have split Kyel in two. Kyel wasn't there. He'd moved before the swing had even begun, guided by the ripple he now recognized from his dreams. The force didn't shout at him. It whispered, always just ahead of the moment. He slid beneath the attack, grabbed the edge of Rook's thigh with his bare hand, and drove a hidden knife from his boot upward into the soft tissue. Rook screamed, staggered, brought the axe back in a brutal sideways slash. Kyel rolled, spun, grabbed a stone from the sand, and hurled it, not at the man's face, but at the exposed control node on the axe's hilt. It sparked, malfunctioned, buzzed wildly. Kyel was inside the giant's guard in 2 heartbeats. No wasted movement, no pause. He seized the fallen axe with both hands and drove the blunt end into Rook's throat. Once, twice. Rook fell. Not dramatically, not roaring, just collapsed like a tree cut from its roots. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then they roared. The announcer struggled to speak, stunned. "Victory, Ashblade." Kyel turned. He didn't bow. He didn't raise his fist. He simply left the arena, leaving the blood-soaked axe where it fell. He wasn't proud. He wasn't ashamed. He had survived. That night the dreams came louder. And this time they spoke clearly. "We are watching. You are ready. Soon the shadow will find you.